Shedeur Sanders has sold the most amount of jerseys out of any rookie this year, but out of the top 10 jersey sellers, he's making the least amount of money. Which got me thinking, how many jerseys would he actually have to sell in order to match his NFL salary? He's on a 4-year, $4.6 million deal, which averages about $1.16 million per year. A jersey costs $130, so he'd have to sell about 9,000 jerseys per year, or 35,736 jerseys total to pay out his NFL contract.
Listen, I'm telling you this right now. All you fans out there, NFL fans, especially if you Brown fans, go get that 1-2 jersey. And I'm not talking about Tom Brady. I'm talking about Shedeur Sanders. Because if y'all know this now, you're going to know it soon. He's going to be the starter day one. He's the best one in the room. Listen, if you're in Ohio and you don't have Myles Garrett's jersey, you don't have Jamar Chase jersey, if you don't have Joe Burrow's jersey, if you don't have Spidey Mitchell's jersey, it's one jersey you better have then. And that's Shedeur Action Sanders.
NFL teams are literally going to war with each other after Shedeur Sanders' jersey sales just shattered every single record in league history, outselling Tom Brady's peak, Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl year, and even surpassing what people thought was impossible in the modern era of the NFL. We're talking about franchises filing complaints with the league office, general managers having heated arguments in owners' meetings, and teams that don't even have Shedeur demanding the NFL intervene because his merchandise dominance is creating what they're calling an unfair competitive advantage that's affecting salary cap calculations, revenue sharing, and the entire economic structure of professional football. This isn't just about jersey sales anymore. This is about power, money, and a 25-year-old quarterback who's become so valuable off the field that he's literally breaking the business model that's been in place for decades. What I'm about to break down is going to show you exactly how big these numbers actually are, why teams are panicking, and why Shedeur Sanders has become the most economically disruptive player in NFL history.
You were the Shedeur guy, and I was the, dear God, I don't want to watch Dylan Gabriel guy. But Shedeur has won me over in leaps and bounds with how he plays, the heart, the development that we're seeing. I really like the kid. I even if it's not here, I want the best for him because I like what I've seen through 6 starts. But neither of us have kind of put a name on it. Neither of us have said we think he's a top 10 quarterback at his best 2 years from now, or he's a top 15 quarterback.
This is the first time in history that a 5th-round pick has led jersey sales.
Yeah.
Nobody is watching 3rd, 4th round as much as we would watch it. But you got to understand, freedom of speech is not free. And I think what Shedeur was doing, what Shedeur was saying, what his father was saying, and the way the father has kind of engulfed his children as you're going into a league where it's like, yo, I'm going to win. Like, it's everything.
Tell the truth. Does this surprise you guys that Shedeur Sanders, pick number 144, is now the best-selling jersey of the draft class?
No, and this is why he's going to be a Cleveland Brown. I think he's going to be on the roster no matter what. Because at the end of the day, I do think he has a safe floor at quarterback, but those type of things, moving the needle, moving dollars around and being relevant as a franchise, that's what you want as an owner.
Well, Jimmy loves this, yeah.
Let me paint you a picture of just how insane this situation has become. Because when I say Shedeur's jersey sales broke all NFL records, I'm not talking about beating the previous record by a small margin. I'm talking about absolutely obliterating every benchmark that existed and creating a new category that nobody even knew was possible. The official numbers came out last week from the NFL Players Association and the league's official merchandise partners, and when teams saw the data, absolute chaos erupted. According to the report, Shedeur Sanders sold 4.7 million jerseys in the 2024-2025 season. Let me repeat that, 4.7 million jerseys in a single season. To put that in perspective, Patrick Mahomes' best year ever was 1.2 million jerseys sold during his 2022 Super Bowl championship season. Tom Brady, at his absolute peak in 2015, sold 1.4 million. The previous all-time record was held by Peyton Manning, who sold 1.6 million jerseys in 2013. Shedeur didn't just beat that record, he tripled it. And he did it while playing for a team that didn't even make the playoffs. But here's where it gets even more ridiculous. Those 4.7 million jerseys generated approximately $470 million in direct merchandise revenue. That's just jersey sales, not counting hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and all the other Shedeur branded merchandise that's flying off shelves. When you add everything together, Shedeur Sanders personally generated over $650 million in merchandise revenue for the NFL in a single season. To give you context, the entire league's merchandise revenue for all players combined in 2023 was around $4 billion. Shedeur Sanders alone is responsible for roughly 16% of the league's total merchandise sales. One player, 16% of the entire league. That's never happened before in NFL history, and it's causing absolute pandemonium behind closed doors. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's impressive, but why are teams going to war over it? Because of how the money flows in the NFL's revenue sharing system, and because Shedeur's success is exposing cracks in a structure that wasn't designed to handle a player this economically dominant. Here's how it works. When an NFL player's jersey is sold, a portion of that revenue goes to the player, a portion goes to the team, a portion goes to the league, and a portion goes into the revenue sharing pool that gets distributed among all 32 franchises. The exact percentages are complicated and vary based on different licensing agreements, but the general principle is that everyone benefits when merchandise sells well. But Shedeur's numbers are so astronomical that they're creating massive imbalances. The team he plays for, let's call them Team A because the situation is still developing and contracts are being negotiated, is receiving tens of millions of dollars more in merchandise revenue than any other franchise. That extra money affects their salary cap calculations, their ability to sign free agents, their stadium revenue, and basically every financial aspect of running an NFL team. Meanwhile, teams at the bottom of the merchandise sales rankings are watching Team A get richer and more competitive purely because they have Shedeur Sanders, and they're furious about it.
So, right now, Shedeur Sanders has the number 2 or number 1 selling jersey in the NFL.
So,
if y'all didn't know that, the popularity, he's working out in Cleveland. He's already getting things to go to the schools, to talk to the kids at schools. He's doing all the right things that people keep saying you need to do.
Sanders is now the most popular rookie out of this year's class because he has the number 1 selling jersey. If you would have said a few weeks ago after falling to the 5th round of the NFL draft that Shedeur Sanders would have the number 1 selling rookie jersey right now, I would call you crazy. But according to Fanatics right now, Shedeur Sanders has a guaranteed top spot right now, with Travis Hunter being right behind him and both of those guys being from Colorado. Cam Ward, who was the number 1 overall pick, comes in at 3rd. Ashton Genty, which is going to be amazing this year, comes in at 4. Abdul Carter, who was a top pick also.
I think that's what's interesting. Like, to me, that is when somebody's maybe struggling with what they think of Shedeur, and maybe they're more negative on Shedeur than we are. They go, you're overvaluing him, even though neither you or I or most Shedeur fans that I've heard, meaning like Browns fans that like Shedeur, not Shedeur fans that, Colorado and going all the way back.
The first public indication that something was seriously wrong came during an owners' meeting in early February 2025. According to sources who were in the room, what was supposed to be a routine quarterly financial review turned into an absolute war zone when the merchandise numbers were presented. One owner from a small market team reportedly stood up and said, "This is unsustainable. One player is generating more revenue than some entire franchises. This breaks the parity model that the NFL is built on. We need to address this immediately, or we're going to have competitive imbalance unlike anything we've ever seen." Another owner from a large market team shot back, "So what are you suggesting? We punish success? We tell fans they can't buy the jersey they want to buy? This is capitalism. If your franchise was smart enough to draft or trade for Shedeur Sanders, you'd be benefiting from this too." The argument escalated from there, with multiple owners getting involved, voices getting raised, and according to one source, it took NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell nearly 30 minutes to get the room calm enough to continue the meeting. That's unprecedented in modern NFL history. But the owners' meeting was just the beginning, because once word leaked that there was internal conflict over Shedeur's merchandise dominance, other teams started taking action. 3 separate franchises filed formal complaints with the league office, arguing that the current revenue-sharing structure creates unfair competitive advantages and demanding immediate reform. 2 teams hired economic consulting firms to produce reports analyzing the impact of Shedeur's sales on league parity, and 1 team, in what might be the most aggressive move, sent a letter to every other franchise proposing a new merchandise revenue cap that would limit how much any single player could generate for their team. That last proposal caused even more chaos because it essentially suggested that if a player's merchandise sales exceed a certain threshold, the excess revenue would be redistributed to other teams. It's basically socialism for jersey sales, and it's one of the most radical proposals ever made in NFL circles. The team that currently has Shedeur Sanders obviously rejected this idea immediately, calling it anti-competitive, anti-player, and fundamentally opposed to everything the free market stands for. But several other teams are seriously considering it, which tells you just how desperate some franchises are becoming. Now let's talk about why Shedeur's merchandise is selling at these historic levels, because it's not just about him being a talented quarterback. There's a perfect storm of factors that have created this unprecedented phenomenon. First, the Deion Sanders factor. Shedeur's father is one of the most iconic athletes in sports history, and Primetime's brand carries enormous cultural weight that extends far beyond football. People who don't even watch NFL games regularly buy Shedeur jerseys because of the Sanders family connection and what they represent in sports culture. Second, the generational timing. Shedeur represents the first true Gen Z superstar quarterback in the NFL. His social media presence is massive, his personal brand is carefully cultivated, and he connects with younger audiences in ways that previous generations of quarterbacks never could. Kids and teenagers aren't buying Patrick Mahomes jerseys the way they're buying Shedeur's. The demographic shift is real, and it's dramatic. Third, the style factor. Shedeur's jerseys are being worn as fashion statements, not just as sports gear. You see them at concerts, at clubs, in music videos, on fashion influencers. The crossover into mainstream culture is something we've rarely seen with NFL merchandise, and it's driving sales through populations that historically didn't engage with football merchandise at all. Fourth, the international market. Shedeur's global appeal is significantly stronger than previous American quarterbacks. Jersey sales in Europe, Asia, and Latin America are breaking records because Shedeur's brand resonates internationally in ways that traditional NFL stars never have. The league has been trying to expand globally for decades, and Shedeur is accidentally doing more for international growth than any marketing campaign the NFL has ever run. And fifth, and this is crucial, Shedeur's story resonates. The narrative of a young man carrying his famous father's legacy, facing constant scrutiny and doubt, proving himself at every level, and doing it all with confidence and style, creates emotional investment that translates directly into merchandise purchases. People aren't just buying a jersey, they're buying into a story they want to be part of.
Sanders got the #1 jersey in the league, selling jersey in the league. And I'm worried about Cleveland cutting. Let me tell you why. They should have easily gone ahead and said he's going to wear #2. I know he got to go through the process and all this kind of stuff, but they could have easily told Fanatics and all the other jersey sellers, just put #2 out there. He made the team, we'll make sure he get it. If he don't make the team, all right, no harm, no foul. Why are the Browns letting that 0-0 jersey stay out there? I know Travis Hunter going to be #12. I know Cam Ward going to be #1. Taylor just told Abdul Carter he can't wear.
Shedeur Sanders is going to be one of the richest quarterbacks ever. Prime equity. I want you guys to understand that word, prime equity. Yesterday I did a video about him receiving $14 million in commission from $250 million earned from his jersey sale. A lot of y'all said, Cap, that's a lie. When Shedeur signed his deal with the Browns, which was $4.6 million, there was a clause in his contract that was called prime equity.
Now here's where the situation gets even more complicated, and why teams are really going to war. Because it's not just about the money Shedeur is generating right now, It's about what happens when he becomes a free agent and every team in the league starts bidding for him. Sources around the league are saying that Shedeur's next contract could be the first deal in NFL history where the merchandise revenue projections are factored into the negotiation as a primary component rather than a secondary consideration. Traditionally, teams evaluate quarterbacks based on their on-field performance, leadership, and ability to win games. But with Shedeur, teams are also calculating the hundreds of millions of dollars in merchandise revenue he would generate if he wore their uniform. This creates a massive problem for competitive balance, because the teams that can most afford to pay Shedeur his astronomical salary and also absorb the cap implications are the same large market teams that would benefit most from his merchandise sales. Meanwhile, small market teams that desperately need a franchise quarterback can't compete financially because they can't match both the salary demands and the organizational investment required to maximize Shedeur's off-field value. Think about it this way. If Shedeur signs with a team like the Cowboys, Giants, or 49ers, teams that already have massive merchandise operations and national fan bases, his jersey sales might reach 6 or 7 million in a season. But if he signs with a smaller market team, even his sales might only reach 3 or 4 million. That difference represents tens of millions of dollars in revenue, which affects everything else about how the team can operate. So now you've got teams that already have competitive advantages because of market size, getting even bigger advantages because they can maximize star power better than small market teams. And the small market teams are arguing that this fundamentally breaks the parity model that's supposed to be the foundation of the NFL. The league office is stuck in the middle of all this, trying to figure out how to address the concerns without killing the golden goose. Because let's be clear, the NFL loves what Shedeur's merchandise sales are doing for overall revenue. I'm not saying that's definitely what's happening here, but the timing is suspicious, and the double standard is worth noting. Here's what I think is really going on. The NFL is facing a generational transition in how star power works and how fans engage with players. For decades, the league's economic model was built around team loyalty first, with player fandom as a secondary factor. But Shedeur represents a shift toward player-first fandom, where fans follow individual athletes across teams and build emotional connections with personal brands rather than franchise brands. That shift terrifies traditional NFL owners because it means their most valuable asset, their team brand, is becoming less important relative to individual player brands. And when one player's brand becomes so powerful that it affects league economics at a macro level, it exposes how fragile the old model really was. But instead of adapting to this new reality and figuring out how to evolve their business model to accommodate it, teams are fighting to maintain the old system by trying to limit or redistribute Shedeur's success. That's short-sighted and ultimately futile, because this isn't a Shedeur-specific phenomenon. He's just the first and most dramatic example of where the industry is heading. So here's where this all lands. Shedeur Sanders' record-breaking jersey sales have exposed fundamental tensions in the NFL's economic structure and sparked a war over teams about how to handle a player who's too successful for the system to easily accommodate. The solutions being proposed range from reasonable reforms to reactionary measures that would punish success, and the debate is going to define how the league operates for the next decade. But here's what nobody can deny. Shedeur didn't break anything. He just revealed what was already broken. And whether the NFL adapts to his level of stardom or tries to contain it will determine whether the league evolves with its audience or clings to an outdated model that can't handle the reality of modern athlete brands. So I need to hear from you right now. Are NFL teams right to demand reforms because of Shedeur's record-breaking sales, or are they just mad that he's disrupting a system that benefited them before? Would you support a merchandise revenue cap to protect competitive balance, or would that be punishing success? And honestly, is this really about economics, or is this about something else entirely that nobody wants to say out loud? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is defining the future of the NFL, and everyone needs to weigh in. And if you're not subscribed, hit that button right now because we're covering every development in this story. And trust me, this war is just getting started.